Hello and welcome to Random Acts of Poetry. So, I changed my mind a lot. So yesterday I said that the life and the death of the beard was dead. But it isn't. I'm going to carry on with that sequence of poems because I like to have at least 50 plus in a sequence. It makes it an easy document to print out. Random Acts of Poetry itself, I think it had over 80 poems in it. Is that a lot? Is it too much? I don't know. And now that it's being done on this video blog thing, well then makes things a lot easier, I guess. I was talking to my little girl. She's 11. She's going to be 12 soon. And I mentioned Nelson Mandela. Nelson Mandela is a perfect example of how things in our world change. Nelson Mandela spent the best part, if not the majority of his life, in prison. And he spent his time in prison because he was fighting for the rights of black people in South Africa. And it was seen as being a terrorist by the South African government. And eventually he was freed, and apartheid was abolished in South Africa. And this becomes a perfect example of how that something that is seen as being right, that is part of the law and is upheld strongly by people, can then suddenly become wrong. Well, it hasn't suddenly become wrong, it was already wrong. It's just now it's not lawful to do it. Slavery was always wrong. It was never right to enslave anybody. However, it was legal to do so. So it's the morality of this issue. I guess it'll be the same with animal rights at some point in the future. You know, it would be seen as a terrible injustice for me to electrocute an animal outside on the street, a cat or a dog, and then to cut its throat. However, to do it inside an abattoir, well, that's seen as being the law, and it's okay. I know it's a lot about context, but what really worried me about our conversation was how, when I mentioned Nelson Mandela to my daughter, she didn't actually know who he was and what he fought for. She didn't even understand that he was a freedom fighter that was a terrorist, or a terrorist that was dubbed as a freedom fighter. Who has any right to say apart from Nelson Mandela and the people that he freed? And she went, oh yes, the Mandela effect. That's when you misremember something. I said, well, what do you mean? And she said, well, everybody believed that Nelson Mandela died in 1996. When he didn't, and then somebody's named this the Mandela effect, and I became a bit concerned by this because I thought, do you know what? Nelson Mandela's legacy will be surpassed by this psychological, meme-driven thing about misremembrances. I thought, well, what was the Nelson, or what is the Mandela effect? Which brought me to this poem. God, that's a long introduction. Humanity. The Mandela effect is not a misremembrance. Yes, a brave man had to lead a fight to emancipate his people from apartheid, even after being in prison for longer than life. Here he still fought, spoke out about what was right, started a movement that over time helped shed the shackles of tyranny. So remember this well. Please don't forget, there are some crimes that should never be forgotten to history. Mankind has to realise that when something's legal, that doesn't make it right. That's the Mandela effect. Righting a terrible wrong done against humanity.